Mama, I'm not going. Something is pressing on me. I can't explain it. I just know if I leave this room, something is going to happen that I can't take back. 300 people are about to walk into that hall. And I am the only person in this city who knows they're not all walking out. She didn't know that yet. Not really, not in words. But 4 hours later, when the siren started, she would understand exactly what that weight in her chest had been trying to tell her. This is the story of a woman the whole street mocked for talking to God too much. On the one morning, it mattered more than anything else ever had. There is a kind of woman this city does not know what to do with. Abuja is a city built on ambition, drawn on boards, its roads cut wide and deliberate, its ministries arranged with the geometric confidence of people who believed they could organize prosperity into existence. It respects the language of arrivals, the man in the V-boot car, the woman whose heels click with intention on polished floors, the youth whose phone glows with the logos of deal-making. To be seen doing something is important here. To be seen succeeding is everything. And to be seen on your knees, talking quietly to someone no one else in the room can see, that's the kind of thing that makes people uncomfortable in a city too modern for certain kinds of faith. Patience lived in this city, and for a long time the city did not know what to do with her either. She was 29 the year all of this happened, not the kind of face that stops strangers on the street, but the kind that stays with you, steady eyes, a soft voice, a habit of tilting her head when she listened that made you feel, briefly, like the most important person in the room. She rented a single room on Banawa Close in the Gaki neighborhood and worked as a junior data entry officer at a government contractor's office. The job paid enough. Rent, feeding, a small monthly contribution to her mother up north. By every visible measure, she was unremarkable, and yet she was all anyone talked about, not because of anything she'd done. People talked about patience the way people talk about something they cannot easily categorize. She prayed constantly, not quietly behind closed doors but everywhere. Before she ate, forks suspended, lips moving with gratitude. Before work, her neighbors could hear the low murmur of her voice through thin walls. She prayed walking through Gaki Market, eyes closing briefly between the stalls, head tilted the way you tilt your face toward rain. She prayed in office corridors, before phone calls, when she got bad news, and strangest of all, when she got good news too. This wasn't fear. Fear is a language everyone speaks and forgives. Patience prayed the way other people breathed, not as a response to crisis, but as a condition of being, as if the conversation had started so long ago she'd simply never stopped. By her second year on the street, the neighborhood had a name for her, Mama Prayer, never said with affection. Said the way too serious is said about a child who won't play along with a joke everyone else finds funny. Mama Prayer, have you prayed for us today, or are you too busy with your direct line to God? They'd laugh. She'd smile, a soft, unhurried smile, and keep walking. Her family carried the embarrassment closest, and the love too, tangled together in a way neither side knew how to separate. Her mother had named her patience in a moment of wishful prophecy, and had long since despaired of ever seeing that patience become socially useful. Mama Patience believed in faith the way she believed in medicine, fine in its right dose, not to be taken so often it interfered with normal function. You are using prayer as an excuse, she'd tell her daughter. You sit there and pray while your mates are building, getting married, moving forward. Prayer is not a career, Patience. God helps those who help themselves. Her brother Tundi, 3 years older, a pharmaceutical sales executive, the kind of energy that filled the room, treated her praying like a gentle madness. When you finished talking to the air, he'd say, a half-grin softening it, come and join the rest of us in the real world. He loved her and was embarrassed by her in equal measure, certain that if she'd just stop, she could focus on progress you could actually point to. Then there was Chisom, her best friend since 22, loud where Patience was quiet, more interested in which restaurant was trending than in anything that couldn't be photographed. For years, their friendship survived on real affection, until the praying became too much. No dramatic ending, just a slow cooling. Uncomfortable silences at dinner. A growing reluctance to invite her anywhere. You can't be sure when she's going to start the church service. 3 months before everything happened, Chisom had said, gently but finally, Patience, I love you, but I don't know who you are becoming. In a city that measures a person by their visibility, only one person never once looked at her sideways, Malam Aliu, the retired civil servant in the apartment below hers. 40 years across 4 ministries had left him with the calm of a man who'd stopped being surprised by the world. He prayed his 5 daily prayers with the same steadiness she carried. Once, After two young men mocked her outside the building, he waited until she passed his chair and said, as if commenting on the weather, "The hen does not stop clucking because the dog is annoyed." "Thank you, Malam," she said, smiling. A real smile this time. "I don't say it to help you," he replied. "I say it because it's true." This was the world Alhaji Musa Baseru's celebration walked into. Alhaji Baseru was Abuja in human form, self-made, loud with generosity, a laugh that filled courtyards, a network stretching from ministerial quarters to the Sunday tomato sellers. He'd started selling spare parts at Woos Market, failed twice, succeeded spectacularly, and now owned 3 filling stations, a logistics company, and a property portfolio. He was beloved for how freely he gave. School fees for neighbors' children, chairs and canopies for events, no asking required. His wife of 30 years, Hajia Mariam, had spent much of the previous year fighting a serious illness, surgery, a long recovery in Lagos. The whole neighborhood held its breath. When she finally came home, thinner but steady, the street exhaled with her. So when Alhaji Baseru announced a celebration, a Saturday in October, 300 seats, jollof and fried rice and goat meat, pepper soup and drinks without limit, the whole neighborhood lit up. Patience got her invitation. She set it on the table beside her bed, and she prayed over it. That week, the mockery peaked. Someone said at the salon that Patience had been spotted praying at bus stops now too. The story grew in the retelling until it included details no one had witnessed. The laughter wasn't vicious. It was the laughter of people who've decided a thing is safely funny. Her hairdresser Blessing told her breezily, "Mama Prayer, just come to the party and enjoy yourself for once. God is not going anywhere. He'll still be there after the jollof rice." The room laughed. Patience smiled. "I'll be there if God permits." That's exactly the problem with her, someone muttered. That night, alone, she sat on the edge of her bed for a long time. It would be dishonest to say the years of being a punchline hadn't cost her anything. She was human. Something pressed on her chest. Loneliness, mixed with a stubborn certainty she could never fully explain to anyone who hadn't felt it. She opened her Bible to no page in particular, read until the weight eased, then prayed sitting upright until the familiar stillness settled over her like a shadow. She fell asleep with the lamp still on. Abuja does October beautifully, cool enough to be comfortable, bright enough to be joyful. By 10 a.m., the street was already dressing itself for the party. Patience woke at 4 a.m., not by alarm, not by any sound, by a wait. Specific and urgent, the way physical pain is specific. She rose without turning on the light and knelt beside her bed. She would later say she couldn't tell you how long she prayed that first stretch. It wasn't her usual orderly prayer. It was shapeless, urgent, without a name attached to it. And she followed it anyway, the way you follow a sound in the dark, not because you can see where it leads, but because you cannot not go. By the time light crept through her window, she'd moved from kneeling to sitting to pacing the small room, praying in a low, continuous murmur, for the street, for every house, for the children by name, for Alhaji Baseru and Hajia Mariam, for the celebration, for safety. And every time she said that word, the weight in her chest pressed harder. So she said it again and again, like reinforcing a wall from the inside, stone by stone, without knowing what was coming to press against the other side. Her mother knocked at 7. "Patience, you're still praying? Since when?" "Bathe. The party is at 12. Mama, I'll be ready. I have this heaviness. I need to keep praying heaviness. You always have some heaviness. Today is a happy day. Can you not just be normal for one day? Come and eat rice with the rest of us without making it a prayer meeting." Tundi appeared in the corridor, sharp in a Navy senator, keys in hand. "I'm going first. Help Alhaji set up chairs. Be ready by 11, Patience. Don't make Mama late." He left. His engine faded down the street. Something in Patience's eyes made her mother go still. Not fear exactly, but a flicker of something unfamiliar. Not distress, not drama, certainty. The face of someone who knows something they can't explain. Then it passed. "Get dressed, my daughter," her mother said. Patience bathed. Dressed in a plain yellow blouse and dark skirt. "Not party clothes." "I'm not going," she said. "What do you mean you're not going?" "I need to pray, Mama. Something is pressing on me. I can't go." The argument that followed was the kind the neighbors on both sides of the thin walls would remember with discomfort for weeks. Rising, falling, resignation curdling into something close to anger. Stubborn. Embarrassing. God doesn't need you praying every single minute. Patience took all of it without raising her voice. Her mother gathered her bag and her wrapper. "I'm going. Don't let them see me without you." And she went. Patience sat down on the floor, cross-legged, the way she sat as a child. And she prayed. Inside the hall, the party was everything Alhaji Baseru had promised. White and gold balloons, fairy lights in lazy curves, linen-draped tables. By 12:30, over 300 people had packed in. The smell of jollof rolled out into the street and pulled people in like something irresistible. Chisom arrived early in champagne lace, phone already out, framing the room. She thought of Patience once, briefly, when the music started, then let it go. Tundi sat near the back with 3 friends from the gym, 2 bottles of Maltin, comfortable at ease. Patience's mother sat with women her age, who asked, gently and already knowing the answer, "Is your daughter not coming?" Behind the hall in a service corridor sat a large industrial generator, brought in because the venue's regular power was unreliable. It had been set up not by the usual technician who knew every quirk of the equipment, but by his junior, competent, but not yet experienced enough to notice the exhaust pipe sat too close to the thick synthetic fabric decoration hanging along the back wall. By 2 p.m., with the hall loud and full and fed, the exhaust heat had been working on that fabric for 2 hours. Invisible work. Patient in the way danger is often patient, building toward its moment without announcement. Patience heard the first siren from her floor, distant. She rose slowly, joints protesting, and went to her window. Nothing, then a second siren. A third, overlapping, and the weight in her chest changed, not harder but different, like a door closing instead of a wall. She was moving before she decided to move. Down the stairs, into the street. A woman ran past rapper askew, phone to her ear. A motorcyclist stopped someone and got an answer that pointed toward Gaki. A child stood at a gate, watching with the open-mouthed look of someone who doesn't have the words for what they're seeing. Patience ran. She wasn't a runner. She ran anyway, sandals slapping tarmac, and then she saw the smoke. Not a dramatic column yet, but the brownish-black kind that means something has been burning for a while. And she could hear it, the noise no party makes. The rear wall of the hall was scorched. The generator sat silent, already shut off. The crowd out front was a torrent, most of them out, thank God, but disordered. Parents calling for children, children calling for parents. She found her mother by a car, wrapper pressed to her face, eyes streaming from smoke or tears or both. "Mama, are you hurt?" "I'm fine." Her voice wasn't her usual voice. Some people in the back, some people were. She couldn't finish. Then Tundi's voice, unmistakable, directing 2 men toward the rear of the building with urgent competence. Whole. Moving. Fine. Relief moved through her like water. None of them understood the arithmetic of it yet. The fire had started in the service corridor, exactly where the exhaust had worked on the fabric for 2 hours. It burned unnoticed for roughly 4 minutes, long enough to fill the rear of the hall with fast, thick smoke. 3 people at the table nearest the back wall were in serious distress by the time anyone understood what was happening. One of them, an older man with existing breathing trouble, spent 4 days in hospital. The other 2 recovered within a day. That back table, closest to the wall, closest to the corridor, should have seated 8. It held 4. The reason was small enough to be almost unbelievable. Alhaji Baseru's nephew Kabiru, assigned to set up the seating, had simply forgotten 4 chairs on that side. He'd been pulled away twice, once by a phone call, once by an inexplicable urge to walk to the front entrance and check something he couldn't later explain. He never went back to finish the table. Tundi had been sitting near that back corridor too, until a friend wandered off looking for the bathroom, and he and another man went looking for him, mildly irritated, mildly amused. They found him talking near the entrance and simply joined the conversation. The minutes passed. Chisom had stepped outside around 2 p.m. No real reason. The hall felt warm. She wanted air. She followed the cool that came through an open side door and stayed out taking photos of balloons against the sky. She was outside for 12 minutes when the smoke appeared. None of it was organized. No single decision, no single intervention. Just small deflections. A forgotten chair, a misread cue, an impulse toward air, the way a tiny shift in a compass changes where you end up if you walk far enough. And on Banawa Close, Patience had been on her knees since 4 a.m. That evening, the neighborhood gathered the way communities gather after something frightening. Patience had spent the whole afternoon in the crowd, finding water, locating dropped phones, holding the hand of a young woman who couldn't find her child for 20 long minutes until the child turned up asleep under a car. She hadn't said much. She never did. Late that night, her mother found her sitting on a concrete step outside the darkened hall. "Your heaviness this morning," her mother said finally. "Did you know?" "I didn't know anything specific," Patience said carefully. "I just knew something needed covering. Something needed." She searched for the word. Protection silence. Then some of those people, her mother said, voice thin, if the back had been full, if Tundi had been sitting there when she couldn't finish it, Patience took her mother's trembling hand and held it until it stilled. All morning I was calling you stubborn, her mother said. I told you to come. I said you were wasting time. She chose each word like a foothold on unfamiliar ground. I have spent years telling you your praying is too much, too inconvenient, too public. I have laughed, Patience. I have laughed with other people at my own child. I don't know what your prayers do. I don't have your kind of eyes. But I know that today you stayed home and prayed when I told you to stop. And today something didn't happen that could have happened. I don't know if it was your prayers. I don't know if it would have been different either way. But I know you knew something this morning that I couldn't feel. And you honored it, even when I made it hard. I'm sorry, my daughter. Patience received it without drama, without the quiet satisfaction of being right. She just held her mother's hand more firmly. There was nothing that needed saying. Kaisom came by the following Thursday, unannounced, with a small bag of chin-chin from a roadside seller. I've been thinking since Saturday, she said. It was such a nothing moment. I just wanted air. 12 minutes, Patience. I was sitting right beside that back table, but you're here, Patience said, but I'm here. Chisom turned her cup in her hands. I said some unkind things about you, not to your face, but to others, about the praying. I was embarrassed of you, and I don't think I had the right to be embarrassed by someone else's faith. She met Patience's eyes. Can I ask you something? Do you ever feel ridiculous, praying all the time while people watch and laugh? Do you ever wonder if it's real, if it does anything at all? Every day, Patience says that. I wonder almost every day if I'm just a person talking to a ceiling. If it's all a conversation with myself, dressed up in spiritual language. I pray anyway, because even if I can't prove what it does, I can feel what I am without it, and I am less, smaller, more afraid, more alone, more cruel. I don't pray because I'm sure. I pray because I'm not, and I need somewhere to be while I figure it out. Chisom looked at her for a long moment, then picked up her chin-chin. I missed you, she said. Simply, I missed you too. The neighborhood changed after that Saturday. Quietly, the way collective opinion shifts when the thing it was built on has been removed. No one stood up at a meeting and admitted they were wrong. People just stopped making the joke. When Patience's lips moved on the street now, there was no snicker, no sideways comment, sometimes just a small, uncertain nod. Tundi went quiet for 2 weeks. Then one morning he called her. Are you okay? She asked. His voice wasn't his usual voice. I was at that back table, Patience, before I went to look for David. I was sitting right there. A pause rougher than his usual register. I just wanted to call you, that's all. I'm glad you called. Are you praying now? Not this exact moment. Okay, a bit. You can if you want. I won't make a joke about it. She smiled. He couldn't see it, but maybe he heard it. Thank you, Tundi. Don't make it weird, he said, and there was the ghost of his old tone in it. Familiar, but changed in some small, important way. Malam Aliyu when she told him, listen without interrupting. Then he said, Adua magani nega kowate chiwo. Prayer is the medicine for every affliction. But I've always thought that saying is incomplete. It isn't only that prayer cures, it's that prayer sees. You cannot pray for a thing without, over time, learning to attend to it. You cannot talk to God about people without eventually seeing them more clearly than you would otherwise. She still prays. This isn't a story with a tidy resolution where the mocked one is vindicated and the town builds her a statue. She still prays on the street. New neighbors who don't know the story still glance sideways sometimes. She still takes her heaviness to her knees instead of to a therapist or a bottle or a scroll of social media. But something is different. Not more certain, she never argued from certainty, and still doesn't, not triumphant. Faith isn't a proof, it doesn't win arguments. What's different is quieter. She prays with something she didn't quite have before, not louder, not longer, just more rooted. The way a tree is more rooted after a storm, not because it learned something new about roots, but because the storm revealed what they were already capable of holding. Sometimes, in that particular slant of late afternoon light, she thinks about that October morning, the weight, the not knowing, the shapeless urgency of it. About Tundi at that back table, about Chisom stepping outside for air, about Kabiru and 4 missing chairs, about the quiet, unplanned geometry of people moved by impulses they couldn't name, toward positions that on any ordinary day would have meant absolutely nothing. She doesn't claim to have saved anyone. She's too honest for that, too familiar with the limits of what can actually be known. What she claims is smaller, and in its smallness more durable, that she was given a weight and she didn't set it down, that she carried it the only way she knew how. and that when the long afternoon was over, the people she loved were still standing. That's the whole of what she'll say about it. And it's enough. There's an old Yoruba proverb: the corn sitting in the water does not know when it is becoming sweet. It's a saying about invisible processes, the things happening in us and around us that leave no evidence until the moment they're finished. A prayer said alone before dawn, a chair never set out, a door opened toward the cool air. Small turnings, invisible as they happen, whose weight only becomes visible once you're far enough away to see where they led. In a city that has learned to worship the visible and dismiss the quiet, there lives a woman they still sometimes call Mama Prayer. But the tone, if you listen closely, has shifted just half a step. The way a door that once swung heavy begins, after long enough use, to open a little easier. She wakes before the city. She goes to her knees. She prays for the street by name, for the children, the parents, the ones who laughed at her, and the ones who didn't. So here's the only question worth taking with you. When last did you mock the thing you didn't understand? And what did that thing know that you didn't?